How's everyone doing today? Pretty Thursday outside. Hopefully, it's pretty where you all are as well. For those that don't know, I'm Gabriel. What we're going to do today is we're going to take non structured text data, records of breaches, news articles, things like that, and we are going to turn them into structured data that we can then analyze and aggregate. And we're going to do that through our data set, Varus Community Database, which is just this GitHub repo. The breaches themselves live in data JSON validated, and there's several thousand here. The things that we're going to code live in issues. So these are breaches that we have text for. You can see we've closed several thousand. We have several thousand more that have not been closed. And so each week we do assignments. So I'll start with those, and I should hopefully finish up my assignments for this week because I should only have one or two. And then we'll do a couple others probably of some of Alex's. So let's get started. We have a news article here, and we'll open that up. Let's see what this is. 2 degrees, lone iPhone privacy breach. Ackland man borrowed a phone from 2 degrees. You can borrow phones. Okay, that seems... Now I want to like stop coding the breach and I just want to go figure out what this business is. He was shocked to find the details of the previous user were still on the device. Heaven forbid. Michael Wayne had set his phone in for repair, but got more when he bargained for when he turned the replacement on. I signed for it and then walked out of the store. I caught a flight to Wellington. When I got there, I realized that all the person's details were on there. The phone was still logged into the previous owner's iCloud account. A 16-year-old Ackland girl giving Michael access to her photos, content, and bank account details. Okay. Still updating her notes. In order to log out of the iCloud, he needed the password from a girl he had never met. So he called the girl's father, who was equally as surprised to get a phone call from the man. The guy called me at Saturday and explained what happened. However, Sapiro wasn't comfortable giving the password to a stranger over the phone. So he called 2 degrees to hope. Clarify, last week, my wife took the phone back to the store. She had deleted all the apps, but they said they would factory reset it, and they didn't. Yesterday, they assured me the phone had been reset, but his photos are turning up on her iPhone. They are turning up in the photo stream. So it must be one of those, like you go in and you take in your phone and you get a different one back and they repair it and give it to the next person, except they forgot to clear it. Just glad the man who ended up as daughters was decent enough. No kidding. Might not even have rung us. Yada, yada, yada. It's a bit dodgy. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Not what we normally see. But again, this is not going to end up being a malicious breach, right? It's going to be an error. So that's it. This happened in 2016. 11/2016, which means it should go into the 2018 corpus. This was a confirmed breach. We have this one news article as a reference. And summary, phone repair doesn't clear phone before giving it to next person. Confidence seems pretty straightforward. Timeline. We probably don't know a whole lot about when this happened. Sans phone. I mean, this isn't the kind of thing that you really would see days for. So we'll just say this happened in 2016, even though it goes in a 2017 set, the 2018 set. Compromise was sounds like it took minutes to sync. Exfiltration. So the exfiltration was from what? From really the iCloud account. So seconds. Discovery. Seconds, this all happened very quickly. Containment. Sounds like containment took at least days, if not weeks, for them to kind of figure it out. Then the victim. And so the company, the organization that failed here and whose device was involved was 2 degrees, and so who is 2 degrees? They're not going to be easy to Google, are they? 2 degrees mobile. Oh, so it's a mobile carrier. Okay. Well, maybe we can find out about that on LinkedIn. 2 degrees. Nope, maybe they are just the repair. 2 degrees environmental. Oh, that's different 2 degrees. Great. 2 degrees New Zealand. Ah, here we go. 1,000 to 5,000 employees. Okay, so we've got a reasonable description of this organization. 1,000 to 10,000 employees. They're in telecommunications. We're going to use the cash wireless telecommunications carriers. We're going to. It's actually the second one of these telecommunications we've gotten this week. It's interesting. Locations affected. 1, New Zealand. I would assume is NZ. In New Zealand should be what? That's a good question from an M49 perspective. What region of the world they be? They have their own region of the world? Example of geopolitical entities. No, they don't. They are listed under Oceania. So 009053. Okay. State, I'm going to skip that because I don't think we have. I don't know. That's a good question. Does New Zealand, what do we know about states in New Zealand? It's not something I'm familiar with, and just kind of curious now. 16 regions in 1 island special authority. So did they say where this was? An Auckland man. So is that a region? It is. New Zealand AWK. There we are. Okay. So that gives us the victim demographics. And then what happened? This was an error. Let's see. Misconfiguration. They didn't clear out the accounts on the system. And then was it done? I think it sounds careless. It sounds like they have processes for doing this, and they just didn't. The actor was internal to the company, and so internal. Cashier, developer, end user, regular employee is probably the closest we're going to find here. Yeah, I mean, it's just someone there. It's working there. There's no motive because it was an accident. It's an error. Then asset, total assets, 1 phone. Variety. This is going to be a personal device, which is user, and telephone. There's a mobile phone separate from telephone, is there? Yeah. 1 Apple iOS. And actually, this kind of did involve cloud services. So okay. Country, New Zealand. Close assets. Attribute, confidentiality, data disclosed. Yes. Variety, this is really personal information. I don't think they disclosed the account to the guy. it was a customer of this company. The data was really stored encrypted. Data abuse was no. We could close that. And then was this targeted? Certainly not applicable because it was an error. Discovery method, external, discovered by an unrelated third party, the person who got the phone. Value chain doesn't apply for an error. Impact, insignificant, a few phone calls worked it out. And this was a random assignment. The event chain was an error by an internal actor, led to a user device compromising confidentiality. And with that, you can validate this one, save it, and go on to the next. And if you've never watched me do this before, we normally copy off the records to a text file, just in case something happens in the web. Let's see, just in case something happens in the web browser, we don't want to lose the data we've generated. And so now this record is over here in our incidents list, and we've got a blank one over here to start again. So we'll take this one, we will go in and close that, and we'll head back over here in the high-tech sports reports breach. Okie dokie. Oh, and this is a breach disclosure form. These tend to be kind of so-so. High-tech values the relationship we have with our customers and understands the importance of protecting payment card information. That said, we didn't do it. We're writing for you about the incident that may have involved some of your information. High-tech received reports from several customers of fraudulent charges appearing on their payment card shortly after they were used to make a purchase at Magnum Boots' online order page. High-tech immediately began working with the company that developed and maintains the websites, yada, yada, yada. Date, the web reported that it had identified unauthorized codes. So we have a date, we have a discovery date, we have code. Inserted in the program that operates as the order completion page. We analyze the code and are very happy to inform you that it steals credit cards. Could be guessed. While it's being connected, we've stopped accepting payments. That's very nice of them. Engaged a leading computer security investigation firm to tell us what happened. Findings results were designed to collect information submitted to our online order form before it was encrypted for transmittal to the payment processor. Orders placed on our Magnum Boots and High-Tech website from January 24th to 2016 to March 11th, 2016 may have been affected, so we know the date it happened. In addition, online orders occurred prior to... orders placed, in addition, online orders occurring prior to January 24th may have been affected. The available log data indicates that the code was not installed prior to September. Wow. So they really don't know when this occurred. They know that someone on the 24th was breached, but they know that the code wasn't there on the 2014. Cannot be determined from the log data available. We are nevertheless notified you because we placed your order between 2014 and 2016. Okay, so I'm going to say that it is less likely that, even though they're being cautious here, January 24th is probably the earliest date they know about someone who had their card clearly compromised. So that's probably the date, even though they're being cautious and saying, well, this is the earliest date we can confirm that the code wasn't there. So this happened in 2016. It should go into the 2017 corpus. It's confirmed data breach 7744. We can get ahead. Here's our reference is going to be California government reference. By the way, this is one of the great things, right? California has this pretty strong breach disclosure law, And it's one where they have to disclose publicly, right? It's not just disclose the breach privately, and that's important because it allows us and other organizations to parse through this data and figure out what exactly is happening. It also helps make it clear that this is a common occurrence, right? When by stigmatizing small breach or other kinds of breach notifications, and make it look like the company is somehow different because of this, it encourages people to hide the fact that they are breached. And then the only things we see are these big, massive public breaches where they couldn't hide it. And it provides a biased view of the world. The reality is this kind of stuff happens to everyone, all organizations. And normally it's the simple stuff, right? This is very likely, we don't know exactly how the malware got there, but more than likely it was just some kind of unpatched vulnerability on the website. That's generally how you get this kind of malware. And so, a simple thing, they probably had some PHP include or some other vulnerability that was well known. The attackers exploited it and probably exploited everyone else that had that same vulnerability. But by disclosing it, it makes it easy to see, hey, this is something that's relevant and happened to a lot of people, and we should deal with this in bulk. When we hide or keep breach notifications private, we don't get a good feel for the scope of the problem, and we also make organizations that suffer from a breach feel like somehow they were individually bad at what they, bad at security or such. Like, this is really more like, people playing a game, and watch people playing a board game or a video game or a sports game. It doesn't matter what it is, even the best teams lose. And there will always be people that just for whatever reason have a breach. And so stigmatizing it is not a great idea. This is malware installed on a payment, on an online payment site. Stealing credit card numbers. Confidence, high. Timeline, medium, because we don't really know when this occurred. So timeline, I'm going to assign this to the earliest date that they know something happened, 2016, January 24. Compromise, we really don't know. Exfiltration happened. We really don't know exfiltration either. Discovery took months. So January to February, February to March, we'll see. 2 months, I think, is fair. It's a little under 2 months due to, I guess this is the end of January. This is actually closer to like 6 weeks. So we'll say 6 weeks. Containment. No, they discovered it on March 11th. Well, and they took it down, so at most hours, because they took the system offline. Notification, is the notification date on this anywhere? Not really. We could probably figure it out if we went and played with it, but I don't think it's incredibly important. So we'll take that as the timeline. Action, hacking. Actually, so because we don't have any information on how the attackers got access. Well, do we want to put an unknown action? Or do we just want to put malware? Because really, we don't know that anything else happened even. Well, let's remove the unknown. This is to infiltrate and exfiltrate. I think they used malware. Let's see, let's find malware variety. Okay, packet for RAM scraper somewhere. Data, export data, configuration. Destroy data, disable controls, click fraud, capture stored, capture app data. There we are. So then how do you get there? And they don't really say. In fact, they don't know, right? Because it came in so early that they don't know when it was installed. So they simply don't know if it was an insider, if someone used credentials, if it's a vulnerability. More than likely, it was exploitive vulnerability. The other processes are very unlikely. But it could be like a remote injection. These are always they're always file includes, right? When you install software like this. A remote injection, I think. Okay. Close unknown because we're not using it. Malware name, CV, we don't really know. They don't say. The actor was obviously an external actor. Organized enough to install malware and collect money off of it. We don't know anything about the location, so we need to put unknown here. We don't know really where. Actually, we filled in, we skipped the victim section, didn't we? Okay, so this is High Tech. I guess that's the company name. High Tech Sports USA Incorporated. Well, let's see what we know about High Tech Sports USA Incorporated. They have a Wikipedia entry, so that's a start. Number of employees, 500. So maybe 100 to 1,000 seems fair. Industry, they're headquartered in the Netherlands. Okay. So the report was out of their, I guess it doesn't have to say, they have a Portland, Oregon P.O. box, but that doesn't really talk about their organization. Okay. Tech.com. Okay, so let's get back to just what we're actually trying to do. They are retail clothing. 31 is manufacturing, though, isn't it? Yeah, I need to be down in the 40s. They're not wholesale. Men's and boys clothing, women's and children's, fits clothing. Clothing stores. Why do they break them down by gender? So okay, so this is clothing accessory stores versus wholesalers. Okay, so we'll just use 448 here. Locations affected. It's unclear to me what the region is because they're based in the Netherlands, but this is a California breach notification, and it's a Oregon mailing address. I'm not sure which of those to use. So we'll skip the rest of this information. And really the interesting thing is that they note that their website was run by a third party. This is one of the things that we don't do a good job of capturing the DBR is they say things like immediately began work. Order page, we immediately developing. High Tech immediately began working with the company that develops and maintains the websites. And so they have their subcon. It's like, is that a partner? Is that subcontracted? Does that count as attacking high tech through this other company? It's a complex question, particularly because companies are so interrelated. It's never really clear. A breach can ostensibly involve multiple companies just because of maintenance and hosting and things like that. And it's really hard once you get past what organization was held responsible for the data to figure out what victims were involved. So, okay, so we did actor, did victim. Let's come down to assets. It sounds like a single web server. They list 2 websites, but they talk about a single date for all of it. So I'm going to say 1 web server. Again, it is unclear to me where this is hosted. In fact, I'm going to make that note up in the victim section. Notes. Company from the Netherlands. Breach notification is from California. Company address is P.O. Box in Oregon. I think, right? Yeah. Okay. And when we put text notes like that in, we rarely ever read them. But, if it comes back to something we've got a question about it, why the data is the way it is, it's nice to have the note there as a reference, even if it never gets read. What was breached? Confidentiality of an unknown number of payment cards. And they really don't say how many. It's clearly customer data. It was processed. So I think we made a note about it in Varus. We actually added a coding issue for it, I think. For skimmers. For credit card skimmers. This isn't really a skimmer, though. This is not a physical skimmer. It was, I think, transmitted. We really don't know encrypted. I'll put a note here. See if should this also apply to malware on credit card websites, or on payment websites. And these coding style things are in here, and there's lots of them in the various issues, but they're to help us answer the same question consistently. Because the reality is breaches follow very, very consistent paths and patterns for the vast majority of smaller breaches, especially like public ones. As you get into the longer, more advanced breaches, they can be a little bit more complex, but they do not necessarily, that's certainly not the majority of breaches. And so if we're seeing something that happens very similar every time, we want to code it the same every time. So let's mark this one opportunistic. There's no reason to believe the reason they were targeted was because of the motive versus the opportunity. Discovery method. This was discovered external. Customers informed them that their credit cards were being misused. Value chain. So this certainly required the development of some malware. Let's see, a Trojan ransomware. We've used Persona once on like business email compromise types things. Bot exploit kits. We don't really know if it was an exploit. Non-distribution services, carrying a DNS marketplace. We don't know if they bought it. We don't know if they used a proxy or any of those things. Targeting. Let's see. I would think it was likely targeting a vulnerability. So they needed a way to find those. They needed a way to distribute the malware. But we don't know if it was known. These all need NAs as well. Cache out. cash out is they've got credit card numbers, so they're going to buy things with the credit cards. But we don't. So we don't really know, because you can cash out credit cards by buying things and selling. You can also cash them out by like buying something you own. So if you have an app, you can use the credit card to buy your own app. Oh. And so we really don't know how cash out and money laundering was working. Well, oh no, but they said, right? They said that fraudulent charges. Well, but we don't know. Direct, stole money, financial, hijack rewards, services, sell stolen goods. Value chain, impact, overall rating. It's insignificant in that they had to pay for the IR, but that was it. Source, this was a random assignment. The event chain, and say malware by an external actor on a server led to a compromise of confidentiality. We'll skip. So there's modified and created are timestamps that get automatically added. Attack difficulty is very subjective. These are things that we keep for historical purposes, and in the web app we try to expose all the features of Varus, but the reality is they don't get used a lot. They were used in the past and not anymore. Security maturity is very hard for something like this where we don't know a lot about the organization itself. Unknown unknowns, again, was a historic feature that they used at one point. Same for cost corrective and control failures. These are easier, particularly if you are coding these for your own organization. You can have some details about what it would cost to fix and what controls failed. You could put those in. But in something like this, it's a public breach. They don't really apply. So we'll mark this as validated. I'll copy it over into our... Oh, that was not a copy. And that's not what we want either. We'll copy it over into our backup. Another one for the next one, and we'll go on. My goal here is to get 4 done today. I'm doing okay. Close this issue. And let's go back to the issues and let's look at Alex's. Let's see. 169 million car buyer records exposed online for all to see. That sounds interesting. Let's open that one up. Actually, I just could have just opened it. Okay, this is a priority one. And priority generally means that it was a large breach or was very public. And so we want to make sure that breaches, even though we prefer to randomly select breaches that we add to the DBIR or to VCDB, we want to try to capture breaches that are significant. And the reality is there's so many breaches that if we just randomly assign breaches, we likely would miss out on breaches that were significant that year. And then that would lead to questions like from a data perspective. So let's look at this. Oh, look, it's an Elasticsearch database on the internet. Who could have guessed? Okay. Exposed a raft of information collected by research. I like how they put research in quotes. Websites aimed at prospective car buyers. There were 198 million records containing information on prospective car buyers, including loan and finance information, vehicle information, IP addresses. Database was unprotected, belongs to Dealer Leads, which is a company that gathers information on prospective buyers via a network of SEO optimized targeted websites. Nice. So every time you go looking for a car, all your details, apparently your IP address, the vehicles you looked at, financial information, if you've entered it, gets sent to these guys who then sell it to car salesmen. I'm sure you guys never would have guessed that. Security discovery of the website. Senior researcher at Security Discovery. So apparently this company was the one who used whatever website of the choice website to search for open Elasticsearch and found one. So this is 413 gigabytes of data. Information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, physical addresses. Oh, that's nice that they got that all paired with the IPs and the rest of the information. Plain text and blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, let's get this one over with. This is a pretty common one. Okay, this happened. The report happened September 11th. Called the company August 20th. Let's assume he called basically the same time. Found the all links back to dealerleads.com. Upon further, okay. Yeah, the business model. Okay, after discovering the database in mid-August, trace the information back to multiple website domains. On further investigation, you know that many of the websites appeared to a mix of lead generation websites and small, possibly independent dealers. Okay, in his write-up, open that as well as a record. Let's put this is an incident. We'll put these references in here. See, what is this? This is another, so this one, and then put this here, and we'll get this last record. Though, I have a hard time believing this is going to really need this much detail, right? Because it's so straightforward. Summary, ES database left exposed to internet with PII and financial information of potential car buyers. Confidence high. So timeline. Does he say exactly when? I mean, not that I really care. I immediately reached out to them regarding my discovery on August 19th. Okay. 2019. August 19th. This should be August 19th. Following day, I confirmed the database was still probably call them. Yeah, who is concerned and professional is getting the information. I closed shortly after my notification by phone, so he emails them. Compromise. So it sounds like the way you find this is you just go look at a search engine. And it gets you a lot of publicity. Exfiltration, which is him just downloading the data to look at it. Discovery took hours, so we'll say 36. It took him kind of a day and a half to get a hold of him. We'll say, I mean, actually 24. Let's be generous. 1 day. Containment happened, within hours, the same day they were notified about it. So there's our timeline. Our victim is Dealer Leads LLC. Okie dokie. Who are you, Dealer Leads LLC? I'm sure you are not a large organization. Here they are on LinkedIn. Might as well open that up. Why did we get something else? Here. Oh, the Better Business Bureau profile. Number of employees, 21. ID, number of employees, 10 to 100. Industry, secondary, we can close that. Which one was this one? Dealer Leads. But we really don't need this anymore because we know. Let's go and look for an information. There is like data processing, hosting, and related services. So their job is to collect data from one place and send it to another. And that falls under information. Locations affected, sounds like one. And the United States. I could say our United States company, right? That's what they said. California. So, yep. North America, California. Action, error, Let's see. Publishing error, they put a database online that they didn't mean to. Don't know why. Actors, this was an internal. It's a system administrator. No motive because it was an error. The asset was a database. Server database. We know of one database. Say it's hosted in the United States, since this is a United States company. Cloud probably, but I mean, it doesn't say. Attribute, confidentiality, data disclosed, yes. I marked data disclosed on those other ones. I'm gonna go check those other last ones I did as well. 198,000 million, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Make sure we have enough zeros in there. And this was, sounds like financial data, so not bank. It's not, well, personal data. It's unclear whether it's bank data, whether it's just like loan data. Okay, that's a good question. These really aren't their customers. I'd say other. Partner, student. I'm gonna say other. Stored unencrypted. Is the data abused? No. That's important for a lot of the errors where it was discovered and it was disclosed to a researcher, but the researcher only used it for their own publicity. Targeted. This was opportunistic. They found on the internet. Discovered by an unrelated third party, the security researcher. Because it's an error, there's no value chain. Overall, insignificant. They reported and they took it offline. And then this was a priority incident. Value chain was an error by an internal actor on a server, led to a compromise of confidentiality. Again, we talked about these before, so we'll mark this one as validated and save it out. And give ourselves another window. We'll close down the references, go in, close this issue for Alex, and go back and grab another one. Oh, that's right, I changed how I got here, so we'll do this. Signee, Alex. Yeah, we'll do this one. It's sitting here, and we really do try to make sure we don't skip ourselves in our data set. So, yes, close this window. That's a great idea. Vulnerabilities discovered by a security researcher in Verizon Wireless Systems could have been exploited by hackers to gain access to 2 million contracts. Okay, so UK researcher has come across a subdomain that appears to be used by company employees to access information, point of sale tools, and view customer information. Further analysis discovered a URL pointed to a PDF format contracts. The installment, while authentication was needed to access the file, the expert initially managed to access one contract linked to a specific phone number after brute forcing the URL gets. The researcher then realized that modifying the value of one of these parameters would display a default contract or a different contract. In other words, they iterated through ID numbers. And then there are a total of roughly 2 million valid combinations to the parameter. A flaw between and each correspond to a Verizon contract. Okay, I guess it's enough to work with. Okay, and then September 19, so this goes into 2020, confirmed. GitHub number, 14 reference go, and then there was another one, right? Yeah. Oh, the write-up from the researcher. Cool. Summary. Let's see. And exposed contract and ID number brute forced. Okay. Confidence high. Timeline incident. See, he wrote it up here, but when did he do this? When? March, September 2019. Update Verizon. Aware of this issue in June. An issue was brought to our attention. I see and worked quickly for application to resolve it. Okay, so June. Gotcha. And then he wrote it up in like September. Perfect. Reported to VCERT in June 16th. Patched July. Blogged in September. Nice. Good timeline. Let's assume he reported it the day after he discovered it. So 06/15. Compromise. I mean, it sounds like it took him a little bit of time to figure it out. But then, you know, once he's figured it out, it takes minutes to do. He disclosed it, so say probably he disclosed it the next day, so hours later. And containment took, it looks like, 6 weeks. So, right? 5 weeks. Notification then happened on 2019, 09, 09. So the victim is Verizon. You know, let's go look and see how Verizon industry. I mean, it's still the telecom industry, right? Telecom communications. You know, we're wired and wireless, so put both. I don't know what we should fill it under. I'm sure it's a large organization. Locations affected. That sounds like one in the United States. Region. Go. I don't know where exactly, what state this was located in. So it's victim. Action. This is interesting. So it was a vulnerability discovered by a security researcher. And it wasn't publicly disclosed, and so, no, really it's an error that was discovered. I don't know. I don't think it counts as an error. I think that's how I put it. So let's say hacking. There's a brute force in here. Let's see. Force ID numbers. These are now known as whatever the acronym they chose here. And secure object, direct object reference, which I think is one of the new CWEs or OWASP things. This was used to exfiltrate information. So through a web application. Okay. The actor was external. Other, because we don't have auditor, competitor. I mean, auditor sounds close. I'm going to put security researcher. Finance fund, grudge, other. Because the doing it for research purposes, publication. And there may be, honestly, there may be maybe there's a bug bounty. Do it for, I don't know exactly how it worked out. Where was the researcher located? Because we know his name, right? Daily B. Where did they say he was located? They said over here, right? Oh, and it's a UK-based researcher. But I don't think these were it was a UK-based system. So the research was actually located in Great Britain. That's Western Europe. Yeah, Western Europe. Okay. The asset was one web server, one web app. Don't know about the operating system. It sounds like he was a US-based web app. Attribute. Confidentiality, yes. These were contracts rather than market personal data. Actually, does it say 2 million? Okay, so customer data. Grab the same thing up here. Variety. I think internal data because it's the contracts really, and it included personal data, but internal data is really stored. We really don't know if it was encrypted or unencrypted when it probably stored unencrypted because who decrypts PDFs on the way out. Data abused, no. Again, these are other things like if you know that if there's a breach and credit monitoring was offered, you can fill it in yes and years, and we'll probably change this to a Boolean yes no, or like a yes no unknown other type thing. Partner data, we rarely use it because it's free form and it's not really well structured, not well defined. Probably something we need to look at fixing. In fact, it wouldn't hurt to create an issue for that. Consider structuring and defining partner data and attribute. The attribute dot confidentiality dot partner data field is unstructured and poorly defined. Consider updating. And I'm going to create the same thing, and we'll give this a label of this is really a schema change I need to look at, and then I'm going to create another issue for actually on the past one I'm going to actually how are the incidents categorized? So Calvin, by handle, they're categorized by when we add them to the issues list. One of the team members who adds them to the issues list tends to label some things as priority based off of their significance, either size or newsworthiness, things like that, or PHI DBR, which would be issues that we would potentially write about in a healthcare specific report. And anything that just gets otherwise randomly assigned is unknown. And so in our assignment script that assigns issues to us as coders, it looks and it preferentially like 10 or 20% of all the assignments are picked from priority issues first, and the rest are random assignments. But we want to make sure that anyone doing research with VCDB knows that things were picked were not picked randomly. And so we code that plus dot subsource so that researchers can appropriately adjudicate those records. So sorry if I missed your question. It's been sitting there for a while. I've been chugging away at this. Speaking of which, I need to also say consider similar updates to attribute dot confidentiality dot partner number. Add that here. This should be tagged, right? Yeah. So I also want to add a new issue to review credit monitoring. No problem. And it's an important one that we don't do a good enough job explaining because particularly for researchers, I think it's important. And it's also important for people who look at the DVR who may think, hey, why is, gee, I know that blah, blah, blah number of breaches were, or records were breached this year because I know this huge breach happened over here. And we try to get those in, but the reality is we don't always get in all the big breaches. We're working off of a sample. And so outliers that can heavily bias a summation of something may or may not be in the report. But the reality is those things also don't tell you kind of what we really shoot for in the DVR is to answer a specific question. What would happen? What's the normal company likely to expect? And talking about outliers doesn't really answer that question well. And so it doesn't really affect our overall analysis whether or not we include those big ones. But it's important from a perception perspective, and it's also important for researchers to be aware of how things were added to VCDB. Update. Credit monitoring and attribute to be logical. So attribute.confidentiality.credit monitoring is currently free form, should be an enumeration of yes, no, unknown, other, with a limit of one choice. And so we'll create this. And again, this is going to be a schema change. And anytime we change the schema, we have to do a decent amount of work, right? Because this field's already filled in. And so not only do we have to do it, and we have to make sure that we set up the enumerations correctly, because this is one where you really wouldn't have both yes and no, or you shouldn't, and other can capture those cases. But we also have to go back and say, okay, how was this filled in the past? And based off of the past, how do we want to fill this in the future? And so if there's a lot of yeses, yes could have been all caps, it could have been one cap, it could have been lowercase, it could have been just the letter Y. We'll have to go back and look at what this field currently looks like and come up with a migration script to migrate it to the new schema. And so every little change we put like this ends up being a block of code to fix it. And if you ever wonder about what those blocks of code look like, they're in varus bin convert. So we'll soon be adding convert 1.3.2 to 1.3.3 to 1.3.4. And there's blocks that should be tied back to the actual varus issue, or the issue in each of those. Okay, so back to this. We're almost done. That's our attribute. Targeted, this was opportunistic, someone just kind of playing around. Actually, it's a good question. This isn't something you would discover just accidentally, right? Like you have to go look for the subdomain, and you have to, this might have been targeted, someone looking for, issues in Verizon websites to report, things like that, which is okay. It makes us all better. But I'm going to leave it as unknown because I don't think that I can call it opportunistic necessarily, unless he says something about how he got it. This is con following subdomain. Okay. You can probably guess by title or some standard recon. He kind of came across the domain, so he may have been looking at Verizon, came across the domain, and worked from there. Discovery method, external, unrelated third party. Value chain, apply for an error. Well, this wasn't an error. Significant, they admitted to it, made the fix. The researcher helped. This is a priority issue. The event chain was a hacking action by an external actor on a server, led to a compromise of confidentiality. And this validated and save it out. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. That's my 4. Right on time. It's about 10 o'clock as well. So, and I wanted to check to make sure that I filled in. That's another thing you can do in this. You can go back and you can click these, and then you can go and look. Because I was kind of wondering if I filled in confidentiality on that one. Filled it in there. For some reason, it just didn't feel like I filled it in everywhere. I filled it in there. And I filled in there. And if I'd wanted, I could save these. I could go back and save, and it would update that record. So if you're doing them and you think you made a mistake, you can always go back into your issues list and recode them. So anyway, that is all I'm planning on doing today. I will be back hopefully next Tuesday. If you want to see me, I'll be at B-Side St. Louis this weekend. Otherwise, I will see you all Tuesday. Thank you for coming by.